I am honored to share space with my friends, Peyton, Carol, and all of you of Gathering Hope. As always, I honor the work that you are doing, all that you have done, and that you will endeavor to do in the future. Many lives continue to be touched because James and Matthew lived. Peyton and Carol, this love that you have for them has brought about such great work across our world because you love them and you love them still. The hopeless have become hopeful, and the lonely have received the invitation to gather. Because you love them still, lives are changed, and there are no limits to this type of love. It's the kind of love that crosses state lines. It spans continents. And Gathering Hope, it has all the tools necessary for grieving mothers to feel fortified with support. So Peyton, Carol, I honor you and thank you for your commitment to this great work. Since we were together last year, so much has changed in our world. You know, we're living in a time of a global pandemic. There's been massive death. Our physical, social, and even our spiritual norms have all shifted. Everything is different. Quarantine and distancing seem to be our norm right now. But if you are like me, I am waiting for things to be back to normal. In addition to all the challenges that I just mentioned, we have something in common. All of us here have experienced the death of our child, or for some of us, the death of multiple children. And we have grieved or are grieving during a pandemic. That alone deserves a moment just to pause, to breathe, to inhale, and to exhale the weight of our reality. Our realities of grieving during a pandemic have impacted the way that we've received support. That's why I'm behind a camera and you're at home on your computer or on your phone, instead of being where we really want to be, in Aledo, Texas, in a sacred assembly of women who are just like us. You know, I believe in the power of environment. I believe in the energy that exudes when women, especially women who are bereaved, those mothers, when they gather together in the same atmosphere, I believe there's an energy that is released. It's powerful, it's compassionate. And I long for the time that we can be back together again. But what I miss more so than just being in that environment, I miss those opportunities to comfort with a reassuring hug or reassuring touch, or looking a bereaved mother in her eyes and telling her that the pain that you feel today will not last forever. I miss that environment. Environment, however, is not limited to geographic location. I believe that even where you are, right in your home, with other women around the world, we are in the same environment. Although geographically we're not together, our hearts, they're in the same place. And I would like to think that we're in the rooms of anticipation, rooms of hope, and rooms of healing. Oh yes, we are in the waiting. And if we're honest, this time of social distancing has not only impacted the way in which we receive support, it has impacted the way in which we seek support. Social distancing has allowed us to be inward in how we express the authenticity of our truest emotions as it relates to grief. You know, it's really easy to hide on a Zoom call. It's really easy to put up your best picture of you smiling when inside you are behind your device sobbing. Today, I'm going to invite you to completely engage in this moment. I'm going to invite you to show the authenticity of your emotions because you're in a safe place. And whether you know it or not, you have been prayed for, specifically for this very moment. And despite whatever thoughts are going on in your head right now, I need you to know that you belong right here. You belong here. So this year's theme is called In the Waiting, and it is inspired by Isaiah 40:31, which says, "They that wait on the Lord shall renew their strength." So I thought, surely the Lord would draw a seamless parallel with this scripture and with where we are. You know, we're familiar with waiting. As expectant mothers, we've been very familiar with the wait. Don't you remember? Don't you remember waiting for just the right time to test to see if you really were pregnant? Do you remember waiting for just the right time and the right way to tell your family and friends that you were expecting a baby? Oh, we waited for the sound and the sight, the flicker of a heartbeat in that ultrasound room. Oh, I remember waiting and all of the joy that it brought to my heart. We waited for our body to transform, to carry the miracle of life. And we waited with excitement for fetal movement. And we waited for the sound of the tiniest cry in the delivery room. We know about waiting, right? Our joyful anticipation quickly spiraled out of orbit as we waited to go back to an OB's office to see if by any chance there had been growth of our embryo from 6 to 7 weeks. We waited with anticipation to discover if that heartbeat that we once saw on an ultrasound was still beating. And we waited for our bodies that once housed the miracle of life to expel that miracle that we had carried for days, weeks, or months. We're familiar with waiting. Earlier, I stated that environment is not just about geographic locations. I said that I believe that we are in rooms of anticipation, rooms of hope, and rooms of healing. And I want to believe today that we really are in the waiting. I like to think of it as that we're in a waiting room. So welcome to the waiting room. You know, I said that I was hoping, and I was almost certain that this message would have parallels to great women in the Bible. You know, those that waited on the Lord, women like us, women who had found themselves in life with a full heart but empty arms. You know, I thought it would be Sarah. We know Sarah's story. Sarah, the wife of Abraham, who waited 90 years to behold the title of mother. But it wasn't Sarah. So I thought, okay, surely it will be Rebecca. It'll be Rebecca and Isaac. Rebecca received twins. It's almost like she received double for all of her barrenness of 20 years. But it wasn't Rebecca. So I thought, there's others. Surely it would be Rachel. It would be Rachel, surely. The sister of Leah, the wife of Jacob. Rachel waited 14 years just to marry Jacob, only to discover that she was barren. But it wasn't Rachel. So there I was in the waiting. I was waiting for all of this to make sense. And so as I waited, the Lord took me to a very unlikely match for bereaved mothers. But it is a very fitting story of waiting. This story is found in John chapter 5, and it's the man at the pool of Bethesda. Like, how does that relate to me being in the waiting? I'm glad you asked. Listen here. This unnamed man had been paralyzed for 38 years. And every day he sat by the pool of Bethesda waiting, hoping that the waters would be troubled and someone would come along and put him in the waters so that he might be healed. This man was surrounded by people who were just like him. They all had the same condition, which means they really couldn't help him. He was in the right environment for healing, but healing did not happen for him. Let's take a further look at Bethesda. Bethesda also means house of grace. And grace is God's willingness to draw near to us. Oh, I love that. It was God's willingness to draw near to us. But a further look at Bethesda also means shame. Got a question. Has your condition of loss caused you shame? So if we put all of this together, Bethesda is the place where God draws near to his people to heal them of their shame. I really wish that I could call this virtual waiting room that we are in Bethesda. We are waiting in Bethesda. This man was waiting on an event. He was waiting on the waters to be troubled and for someone to put him in the waters. And we had been waiting on events. But today, we wait on the Lord, as found in Isaiah 40:31, they that wait on the Lord. And that's where we are today in this virtual waiting room. We're waiting on the Lord. May I share my waiting story with you? So in 2007, my husband and I decided we were ready to start a family. My daughter, Destiny, died at 16 weeks after a very beautiful pregnancy. And the doctor told me to wait 3 months before I was free to try again. So I waited. In December of 2008, our daughter, Brianna, was conceived. She was born in July and died at 5 months of pregnancy, 17 weeks. The doctors told us to wait 6 months before trying again. So I waited. In March of 2009, we conceived a child, and our daughter Madison died at 20 weeks. And the doctor told us to wait for 6 months and we could try again. So I waited. I kept waiting for events. I kept waiting for dates on a calendar and a baby in my arms to be better. I wasn't necessarily waiting on God to draw near to me. I wanted a baby. And I didn't really feel like waiting on God for anything else because I had a biological clock that was ticking. And everything and everyone around me implied that I was late, that I was missing something. In December of 2009, we conceived a child. My son, Ethan, was born alive and healthy, and he's 10 years old today. So I thought, the wait is finally over. In March of 2011, we conceived again. And my son, Israel Grayson, died at 38 weeks. The doctors told us to wait a year before we conceived again. So I waited. In July of 2012, we conceived and our son, Evan, was born. He's 7 years old today, alive and healthy. But with a husband and 2 beautiful kids at home, I was still in Bethesda. I was waiting for external circumstances and external gifts to make life manageable for me again. But what I really needed was an encounter with God. I thought if I rushed to have a baby, the pain of loss would be eradicated. But it remained. Although I was surrounded by a supportive family and friends, and even leading a support group, I was still in Bethesda. And the main reason is because I wasn't inviting God into this space of grief. Perhaps the blessing of this divine interruption in our society is to point us back to the waiting, to point us back to the hopeful anticipation of our Savior, the one who draws near to us to heal us of our shame. Think about Gathering Hope, Delaware, became In the Waiting. Gathering Hope, Oklahoma, Gathering Hope, Texas, became In the Waiting. What are we waiting on? These events have been divinely exchanged for an encounter. I really believe that it's a Bethesda-like encounter where the Lord draws near to us to heal us of our shame. Healing really is our utmost desire. It is our primary need in order to journey forward from pregnancy loss. But what I have to tell you is that it's not healing from pregnancy loss that we need. I don't even know if it's possible to heal from the love that we have for our son, or to heal from the love we have from our daughter. What we're really in hopeful anticipation of is the healing of the trauma that we have received because of pregnancy loss. So we wait on the Lord for that healing. You know, it's the side effects of this trauma of pregnancy loss that paralyzes us. It's the fear, the disappointment, the anger, the depression that silences our voices. And on this journey, we need you. We need you to speak the truth about your experiences, because someone else is coming along and they need to hear not only that they are not alone, but they need to hear how you have navigated through this process of trauma. Remember, I said that gathering hope encompasses all the tools that we need for grieving mothers to feel fortified with support. So today, through this virtual encounter, we've been placed in an environment of healing and blessed with the gift of community. It is within these parameters that we find ourselves and that we find our voice. We find opportunities to give and receive support. And it's also where we find the renewal of strength. So, what is the message for bereaved mothers that are here in this virtual Bethesda? The first is, as you are waiting, please remember that you're not waiting on events. You're not waiting for another pregnancy test that's positive, because healing does not come in the form of another life. Healing comes from an encounter with Jesus as he draws near to you. And I know we've connected in worship and we've connected with the scriptures, but this kind of healing that comes along this journey is not solely a spiritual experience. It is the primary ingredient necessary, but it is not the sole ingredient necessary. We have the gift of community, and we must fully yield ourselves to this journey. My experience with grief, specifically the grief of pregnancy loss, was positively impacted when I made the decision to invite Jesus into my grief. Not only into my grief, but into my trauma. So me plus Jesus was the catalyst for change. Those spiritual connections that we've had with worship and aligning our thoughts with the scriptures have been the invitation for spiritual engagement. And now you have the opportunity to share your story. You have the opportunity to share your personal story of loss and of hope. And as you share this story, it not only yields for healing and empowerment for you, it does the same for everyone that hears your message, your story and your pain. It is needed, it's necessary, and it's valuable, not just to you, but for the ones that will come along behind you on this journey of loss. So whether it's with a tear-stained face or with a tremble in your voice, I want to empower you to speak. Speak your truth authentically. And this journey is not just one of tears. You will see women that have been on this journey for 5, 10 years. And it's true. The intensity of the pain that I felt back in 2007 is not the same intensity that I feel today. And it is because I found a way to move from waiting for Jesus to accepting his invitation for healing. Along this journey, you will be both the giver and the receiver of support and compassion. Use your pain to empower you to tell the truth of your story and how it has transformed your life. This beautiful gathering honors the life of your son, my son, the life of your daughter, and my daughters. And also, this gathering honors you. It honors every tear that you've cried. It honors every victory you've won. This gathering honors and celebrates the fact that you're here, that you've made the decision to show up and to share. So as I close, I want to take a moment to gather the memories of all of those precious children who have gone before us, and remembering the women who waited on the Lord. I gather those memories, and I also think of and gather all of those who will be strength for us on this path. As we go, as we wait, as we invite the Lord into the trauma that we have experienced, I'm so excited about the hope and the strength that's available to us. And today I want to leave you with a charge, not only to be passive in your wait. You can wait on the Lord and be of good support to others. Your pain still has purpose. Your tears still have a story. And I want to invite you to share those. God bless you as you are in the waiting.